StarCraft Remastered post BlizzCon. What's the state of the scene? Let's find out on this episode of Inside the Scene. Kick it, Tara. All right, guys, welcome. Post BlizzCon, we are alive. Inside the Scene, the show where we explore some of the best topics here in StarCraft 2, but this time StarCraft whole. I'm your host, Drekken, and I'm joined with my immiscible co-host, Anderson.
Immiscible. Is that a word?
It is now.
I don't know if that's a word. I think
it is now.
Okay.
The best part of being a host and on our show, you can do whatever you want. Like you can do whatever you want, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Zealot, all the same thing for me, right? Melee. Yeah. All the same thing, right? So we're back. We've been back. We had like a little, well, you and me, we've been apart for 2 weeks because you went off on a trip.
Yeah, I went off on a trip to Hawaii. Then you went off on a trip to BlizzCon. And now we're back, both in Toronto and doing the show.
Yeah, we are. So it's we'll be mindful because we have some time constraints on our guests. So we're gonna jump slightly right into it. Let's hit it up with the question of the day. There's a question today. I didn't write this question today, but I'll ask it anyways.
Did you censor it?
I didn't even censor it. It was self-censored. It's funny because usually these questions are usually StarCraft related, so whatever. This is fine though. Post BlizzCon, obviously, there was a couple of announcements. So the question of the day, and you guys know how it works, you can put this answer off on the VODs in the chat if you're here live. Do you want to play Diablo Immortal? Underscore, do you want to play Diablo Immortal?
No. I don't know. It's not only obviously it's a disappointment to people that do play Diablo and they're like super into that, but I don't understand, and maybe it's a generational thing, maybe I'm too old or something like that. I don't understand. Like, I understand mobile games.
Right. Okay.
And I like some mobile games, and like there's stuff but I play them weird. I have an Android emulator right here on this screen running all the time. I barely play mobile games on my phone. But sometimes. But when I think of a mobile game, I think of something that you you check it like 2 or 3 times a day and like take your turn or like use your energy.
Are those kind of like cookie clickers? Is that what they're called? That term?
There's that sort of thing. The idle games. There's stuff like the Clash of Clansy type things where like you get in a war and you have to do like one thing like every day or two, like sort of thing. There's stuff where like, I don't know, Candy Crush stuff where you get a certain number of moves and you take those moves today and then they don't recharge till tomorrow. Or like a lot of mobile games are very much designed to be like 5-10 minute experiences
because you're supposed to be like on a subway or something.
Yeah, like the idea is you just use it whenever you have a second, like whenever you've got a minute or two or you're waiting for something. And like for that, like I like that sort of game. And same with, or like a big one obviously that people are probably familiar with is Clash Royale. The games, like you play your little cards and it takes like 3 minutes, 4 minutes to play a game of it. But Diablo, and like I know it's not the only one, and I think even Diablo is like just a skin of another game that already exists or something.
That's what I don't know if it's a rumor, but that's
I don't know if it really is. But yeah, but there's games like that where I don't get who the hell's playing this, because like who sits with their phone and plays for like even half an hour, let alone like an hour or two, like to play like a role-playing game or like a grinding game. I just don't know who that is, but maybe it just is kids younger than me that like I don't know, maybe they do that at school at lunch or something. I have no idea.
I think that's what it is.
Like I don't know who it is, but yeah, it's not something like it strikes me. Diablo is the type of game that I think the people that I know that play it for like they play it like 5-6 hours at a time. They play it with the same dedication of someone that plays an MMO.
Okay, but wouldn't it be the same people who use like Game Boys, like our generation played Game Boys?
Yeah.
And like I played Pokemon 5-6 hours a day, mobily around, and you know maybe those are like maybe that's what this generation comes to, and we just don't see our phones in the same. You and I may not see our phones in the same way as like to them. That's their Game Boys. That's their.
So buy a Switch. buy a Switch. It's better be better on the. I think the biggest thing with the phones, controls are horrible.
Okay.
Trying to play a precision game like that, like something like complicated with a lot of tapping, like Diablo is like constantly skill, click, 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 move. That's going to be annoying. But also battery life, like phones, the games on phones can't run on phones. They do, but like, have you ever tried to play something? Go, not that I recommend the game. Go load Command and Conquer Rivals, and I dare you to play that game for half an hour without an oven mitt.
Jesus,
because it will just like
it'll just heat up. Your
like
phone is not designed for that.
It'll drain your battery and it'll heat up. So I just don't know, again, who's doing these things for hours, because it's just not designed for that. Your phone's not designed for that. So no. I don't know. But the short answer is no.
That's why I love having these discussions, because you always put it so succinctly of like what it is. Let's jump into a StarCraft challenge. You know, guys know how the StarCraft challenge works. Guess who this person is, and at the end of the episode, we will reveal him. Tara, hit us with the StarCraft challenge. Now back to you. So, all right, guys, make sure you guys figure out, guess if you know who it is. Let us know the answer in the chat who that person is. Oh, someone's like Sue. Could be Sue. Could be. And let us know, who do you think the person is in that video? So why don't you kick us off to our next and final segment before we bring it on?
Yeah, we're going to go back into perhaps a fitting back in the day, going back to some StarCraft lore, looking back at the time that the Great Chill fought against Combat X.
I love that.
Yeah.
Anticipated match in the century. Oh my goodness, this should be just the sickest, most epic, like Tiger Woods fist-pumpingly, Mike Tyson ear-bitingly epic match the world has yet known. X did a very wonderful thing for this community. Combat X is providing videos for the complete scrub. Not trying to bring the D-level player to the C-level. He's trying to bring your grandma into StarCraft and letting her know what's up. So right now, Chill is trying to bash on Combat X. Combat X, again, as I was saying, He tries to provide commentary to the masses. That is his penis. That is his identity in the StarCraft community. However, TeamLiquid.net discovered that Combat X was doing a little bit of win trading, a little bit of win abusing, which of course caused the entire StarCraft community to say, hey, Combat, your penis is full of shit. Right, everyone started raging out against him, saying that he was totally full of shit, that he was not a good player. But of course, Combat X decided to make an apology video, which had to be one of the worst apologies ever given, maybe? Probably the worst, because it's just a way of ordering things. There's a way of going, hey, you know, I know there's a lot of tension going on, but I did the wrong thing. You gotta wrap up by saying that. Combat X, on the other hand, began by saying, hey, I may have done the wrong thing, I may have transgressed, but let me start off by saying how wrong Team Liquid is, which was a big no-no, because now we have two epic penises in the StarCraft community clashing. Oh my god. Overlords, we see a little bit of a Hydra is trying to kill this one Zealot, because these Hydras will die to this army, so you may as well show this one Zealot who's boss, right? So we have some lurkers, some emergency lurkers trying to be morphs, but really, it's just too hard to get that much pooped out of 5 hatcheries when you only have 2 gas. So he's going to burrow the lurkers, and they're going to die virtually instantly, unless he can take out these observers. Oh, most of the army is just not there. Oh no. Uh-oh. Combat X busting out the caps lock, wielding his penis. And resources to build units here, because he needs to build cannons here to not die, which is fairly important. Because, you know, like, in StarCraft, the most important counter to remember is fucking killing your opponent. Oh no, he's gonna send a probe maybe to try to take out this thing, but alas, there's a sunken colony defending. Uh-oh. Combat X, dum dum dum, ba-da-da. The ego war seems to have been settled. And in terms of one of the most epic penis measuring contests in all of StarCraft history, Chill clearly has the biggest dick between the two.
Oh well, we're back.
Yeah.
You know what the best
time in history.
Yeah, what makes that video the best is just the Day 9 casting. The old school, like Day 9, no filter casting, which you would probably never see again. Ever.
Yeah, he's never, it's very rarely does he mention penises now. Like hardly at all. Like does it come up in Hearthstone or anything?
No. Or always walking. I don't know if there's any penis discussions.
Well, yeah.
All right, let's jump right into our guest, guys. Before StarCraft Remastered is our sister game, right? It's actually our mother game, really. I guess it's the mother game to all that we have now in StarCraft. And I think that at BlizzCon there was cat.
Yeah, sorry.
You know, I feel like us here in like the StarCraft 2 world don't get an opportunity to kind of know what's going on in the SCR world, and it's almost like if you're SCR, you don't follow very much about StarCraft 2. If you're StarCraft 2, you don't really follow too much about SCR. And this would be a great opportunity for us to marry the two and figure out what's going on in the motherland. So here to join us on the StarCraft 2 side to give us the rundown of SCR are 2 members of that community, Jaeyun and Qikz. Welcome to the show. Woo!
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Pretty good.
Jaeyun, thank you very much, guys. Yeah, thanks for being on here. Normally, I would do an intro for the guests, but I'm going to make you guys introduce, because you guys will know SCR better than we will, and explain how impactful what you guys do affects your scene. So, Jaeyun, why don't you start, and then Qikz lead us after.
Yeah, I'm honestly just more of a streamer, kind of like a competitive player. I play Zerg, and I also kind of just like run a number of kind of just these North American team battles, which is basically like pick up basketball for StarCraft almost. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of, I focus a lot more on the North American scene, just trying to grow the audience and organize things like that.
I saw you did some analysis and coaching videos.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. So I do that on the side. I mean, I don't know what I am, to be honest. I don't have like a coherent identity. It's like in the StarCraft Remastered scene is like it's such a niche that like some of us kind of just need to do a little bit of everything. You know, I've thought about going into casting full time, but if I leave the competitive scene, then I feel like there's gonna be not enough gamers or not enough streamers. So I try to do a little bit of all, just like streaming, kind of coaching, casting, analyzing, organizing, but I'm not like extremely good at one thing. Just kind of a jack of all trades, master of none kind of guy.
Do you play like you play as well? Like you rank up on the ladder as well as a player?
Yeah. I mean, I do play. I mean, I would say, I don't know if I'm like a top foreigner, but I'm somewhere maybe like at a tier 2 foreigner or something like that. And yeah, I just try to stay at this level. I don't like really try to get super duper good, but try to stay at like a good enough respectable level.
Better than or worse than TT1?
Probably worse, but then TT1 is a free spirit. So like he plays when he wants to play, and then he just like leaves or he like screws around a lot. So it's like if he's like in his prime, he's probably better than me. If he's just like screwing around, we'll probably trade games.
All right, Qikz.
Hiya, I have my cat in front of me, but yep, my name is James, also known as Qikz. I'm currently avoiding my cat from like headbutting me, but I've run tournaments now since 2015. I started with a team league. It didn't really go anywhere. No one sort of knew who I was back then, even though I've been playing since 2008. And it kind of died because I couldn't organize it properly. I came back again in 2016, started running sort of weekly tournaments. They went pretty well. And now I'm back running my team league again, and this time it's actually doing a lot better. So there's 16 teams. We've got teams from all over the world, so Korea, South America, North America, Europe. We don't have an Oceania team, though, but I think that's likely because there's not that many people that play the game from there. But other than that, it's been pretty cool. Obviously, I just got back from BlizzCon as well as you guys, so need to start casting again. But in the scene, I'm mainly a caster and tournament organizer. I do play on stream as well, but I'm nowhere near as good as Jaeyun. So,
is that the Shihan Tank Team League, or is that?
Yeah, the Shinhan Tank Pro League, or STPL. That was based. The name's based on the old Shinhan Bank Pro League.
But I was going to ask, like, is it sponsored by that?
No.
We wish.
Yeah, I wish it was, but no. It's just it started because back in 2015 when I first ran it, the idea was it was kind of like a fantasy league. So you would play under the IDs of your like favorite pro gamers from back in the day or whatever, and you'd make the teams that were there back then, and you'd sort of hide your identity. And the problem was no one knew who anyone was, which was good because no team felt like, well, this is clearly better than everyone else because no one knew who they were, but then no one could organize their games. So I kind of overlooked that fact. And I like tried to make a Reddit to get people to sign up to do it, and they didn't want to do it, and then eventually it died. But doing a lot better this time. People play under their own IDs, their own teams, and it's been pretty good so far. So it's nice.
When I saw it, actually, I was like, wow, I remember the Shihan Team League, but I don't remember there being a tank there. So I actually thought at first it was like, maybe my memory is wrong, but I was like, okay, now that makes sense. All right, so yeah, that's the overall part of, and both of you guys are you guys, would you say you're more the foreigner NA scene, or do you dabble in the Korean scene as well?
Well, I mean, I organize things in the NA scene, but I mean, I keep up with the Korean scene, but I don't really, contribute to it.
Yeah, with me, I run global tournaments, so Koreans can join, Europeans can join, Americans can join, whatever. But it's a little bit harder as like a foreign caster to really get into the Korean scene without being in Korea, which is obviously a huge jump. I mean, we've got people like Artosis that's there, Tasteless, Rapid, No Regrets, been doing a little bit of casting in Korea as well. But I mean, the Korean scene is still kind of like segmented off, which is why people like me and ESChamp who have been trying to build events that sort of bridge the gap a little bit to get Koreans sort of realizing that people actually like Broodwar outside of Korea, and also foreigners give them more chance to play with Koreans and improve a little bit more. So yeah, it's mainly the foreign scene for both of us, but I especially keep up with the Korean scene as well. So
cool. So over the past little while, like obviously with SC2 Remastered coming out, during the year of 2018, which we're approaching the end of, have you noticed any large change in the foreigner scene, or foreign interest in StarCraft remastered, or has it been like a small spike and then just kind of the way it was before, or is there something sustainable there?
I would definitely say it's grown, especially with Blizzard hosting the KSL on Twitch as well. It kind of gets people knowing that, hey, StarCraft Remastered actually still does exist, because the Korean scene is all on Afrika TV. I know it's the same for StarCraft 2 a little bit, but Twitch was kind of always the big player there. I mean, there's definitely been a growth in player base and a growth in viewer base as well. I mean, obviously this is anecdotal, I can't say for sure, but especially since KSL came onto the scene, like foreign streamers are getting a lot more views, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like when Remastered was announced, like, whenever they announce anything, there's obviously a lot of people coming back, a good number of big names that start to stream. And, these guys got like lots and lots of viewers from their, just a reputation back in the day, like Rhett or Draco, or I don't know, like White Raw and all these people. And, but slowly they kind of fizzled out after, I got to talk to Draco, who, if you guys don't know, is a very prominent Protoss player from Poland. And, people like him, they start to stream, they try to invest in their stream, they try to, like grow a following. They had this whole thing going on. But then he told me, like, as the months went by since Remastered came out, he just felt like the numbers kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And eventually he just said, hey, like, I've got to focus on other things in life and I just can't, invest in this, and that's kind of the challenge with StarCraft, because a lot of the prominent players are, older people with like other priorities, right? So, but then I think like as the years went by, just to Qikz's point, like with the remaining people that stayed, I think it's definitely grown. Like I think people have shown some more commitment, a lot of excitement for like smaller kind of grassroots type events. I mean, again, we're working with very few viewership. So when we say grow, it's like when we get like 100 extra viewers, that's a big deal for us. Yeah. So it's like, it's not like, we're not saying like monumental growth, but I think there's a lot of growth in interest and a lot of organizers, just people trying to get into the game. So I definitely think it's in a good place.
When we think of the streams and that kind of stuff, because we mentioned the idea of these, like this spike and fall, and I think all games, like even StarCraft 2, definitely StarCraft 2 goes through that, like, this is released and suddenly it goes up and then it, tapers off and then everyone kind of like does whatever. What kind of things do you guys find helps bump those numbers? Like obviously SCR, like we talked about KSL being on Twitch is one of those big things, but you guys don't have like new releases that really get people excited. Are there other things that maybe we don't know about that kind of raises SCR's profile in the general community, and then even just for a little bit?
I mean, one of the things from my side, I mean, once again, this is quite anecdotal, but when you have players like Artosis, because obviously he has a huge following regardless of the game he plays, but because he's streaming Remastered a lot, it gets people watching the game more. Now, another thing that, especially from my side, is I've been trying to work a little bit closer with Blizzard, and with the playoffs of my second round of my tournament, they actually tweeted about it a couple of times. Obviously, that's not that much, and I hope to work with them a little bit closer in future. But I mean, even those two tweets, like my viewer count kind of skyrocketed, which is kind of crazy. Like I got an extra, I know I'm saying skyrocketed, it's like 100 viewers, but for us, that's kind of insane. And it's it's sort of small little things like that make a huge difference.
Yes, I'm sorry, my sound cut out for like the first half of that. What was, just like in a really quick, what was the question again?
So the question was more like, because you guys don't have, like for StarCraft 2, there are things like kill co-op commanders, so that when they release, they generally cause like a small spike, or even on expansions of StarCraft 2 cause a small spike in viewership, interest, whatever. Does RCR have things like that help boost the viewership even for a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be tough. I mean, I think it's like what Qikz said. I mean, somebody like Artosis, or somebody, there's a couple of other streamers out there, like S2J Falcon. He's like a pro melee player, right? He also plays StarCraft. Or, people like Mr. Llama, who's like a huge Diablo 2 guy that plays StarCraft. And like, that's kind of like, it's hard to get people who don't already watch StarCraft watching StarCraft daily. That's kind of the issue. And honestly, and maybe this is a problem in StarCraft 2 as well, but it's like StarCraft Broodwar is a hard game to stream and play and interact with the audience. I mean, like, that's the thing. It's like I have this problem where it's like I would love to be more like, you know, what Twitch wants me to be, like interactive, talk to people, which I try to. And I think I do a decent job, but still when I like really try, I'm basically focusing on the game and I can't really talk. And so some people, it is tough. I mean, I think it does kind of take like bigger events in general, like kind of offline events that get people like, oh, there's still StarCraft around. Then they start watching it. But in terms of like other small things, like you said, like the co-op stuff, yeah, we don't have much.
I wonder, like, because I know the Korean players in StarCraft 2, when they stream, they don't say anything either. The people watching.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Korea is just like a different animal, though, right? I mean, it's just like it's almost like a prominent sport there. So, you know, those guys are like celebrities, like outside of StarCraft and stuff too. And I don't know. Maybe if people started to like stream more seriously and full time, like then maybe something can work. But then like, because like I said earlier, a lot of people can only do this as a hobby and they can only invest so much. And that's kind of why, you know, it's hard to kind of grow it.
What's like the biggest StarCraft remastered streamer, out of curiosity?
I mean, if you're looking in general, it's probably Brittany. Brittany isn't necessarily the best pro, but he's like an I believe he was on Sparky's, an old Pro League team. But he's actually, like, I believe, the most popular streamer on Africa TV. And I think probably outside of Korea, it would likely be Artosis, just on the basis that he gets a lot of viewers. But there's also someone called 0PL, who's a Polish player. Poland's Broodwar scene is massive, so whenever he streams, he gets a lot of viewers from there. And it's really cool because there's kind of like three pockets of Broodwar. There's kind of South Korea, obviously, that's the main one. In South America, Peru has a huge StarCraft scene that we don't really know anything about. And in Europe, it's Poland. Like, their scenes are really self-contained as well. Like, the Polish scene is a lot more open, obviously, because a lot speak English. But, like, the Peruvian scene, because they have such a bad connection to everybody else, you don't really hear about it too much, but it's massive. There's, like, two really, really good Peruvian players as well, who are, like, two of the best foreign players in general. Like, they're insane. That's Dandy Terran and Terra. Both of them play Terran, so Tatagi. But, yeah.
Peru?
That's
really?
Interesting. You wouldn't think that.
I would never have picked Peru. If you were to say pick a country randomly that would have StarCraft related people, it would never have been Peru. I would have picked like 1,000 countries over it.
Yeah, like South America has a pretty, like, you know, again, we're all talking, you know, relatively, but South America seems pretty like active, but they are a lot more self-contained, you know, like Qikz mentioned, there's a few people from there that participate in other tournaments, but like, you know, whenever they have casts and stuff, like they usually have like their own channel with like, you know, a Spanish speaking cast, and there's not too much interaction because they don't really speak English. But like, you know, let's say in Europe, they might speak English more. So there's more interactions, a lot more viewership. And also there's like China, but then they're like, again, they're just like its own thing.
China is like kind of like a given. Like if you were to say China, I wouldn't even blink an eye. But so a little weird anecdote that my background was from the fighting game scene, and usually South America was really good at King of Fighters in terms of fighting games. Like they were really good at King of Fighters. This is like Brazil and those areas because they were predominantly poor countries. So their games were like a dime to play like these King of Fighters, while Street Fighter is like 25 cents, which is like super, I guess, translated into whatever the money is. It's really expensive. So they gravitated to the really cheaper games, and then that translated off to, you know, today's era, where in the King of Fighters games, they're really good. So I'm curious enough that if StarCraft in general was just a cheaper game and stayed around long enough in PC bonds.
I mean, that's why it became popular in South Korea to begin with, right? Is that it kind of hit during a recession. That was a cheap thing for young people to do after school, etc.
I thought it was because of like the space in Korea, and then PC bunks were just like these really good places for people to kind of like hang out.
Places to hang out, but they were also it was like $1 an hour to hang out there or whatever. And Yeah, there's a lot of cultural reasons, but a lot of people say it was like the recession that hit at the time, and that it became the major sport and entertainment because of that.
I mean, the main thing with Broodwar is obviously you started with kind of everyone joining together in PC bangs, and internet cafes in Peru is the reason why it's so big in Peru as well, because very few people in Peru actually have internet in their home, from what I understand.
See, that's what I'm looking
That's a key.
for. That was what I was looking for, because I'm like, there has to be a cultural link to why that particular area would have, and like someone actually mentioned Dota in Peru too. Is like, I'm not super into the Dota scene, but I do know that they have a Peruvian problem some of the times that people joke about on Reddit. So I'd imagine if Warcraft 3 and Dota Original was something that was just really popular because of PC bangs, and that culture kind of grown it. But anyways, we're digressing, but that was something that just caught my interest, was like, because Peru is not the first place I would have thought about in to play like one of the hardest games in the world. Here we go. My thoughts around, like, we mentioned the idea of just foreigners in general. So how do new players get into the game? Like, this game is 20 years old. How are new players getting into this game?
Well, currently there's actually a tournament that's running on Team Liquid, actually. There's been a few iterations of this over the years. Like, when I first joined and played the game in 2008, the first thing I ever did was join I think it was like the first iteration of this. It's called the Coach Pupil League. And basically, it allows anyone of any MMR, any skill level, to sign up. You're kind of put in divisions, you're put into a team, and the teams have coaches, obviously. For the top players in the teams, they have like the higher level coaching, but then if you're like one of the newer players, you can kind of get coaching from anyone. It's currently running at the moment. I think there's still sign-ups, but it's run by a guy called Paisan on Broodwar. What I can always do is or maybe I can link it. If not, I'll link it on Twitter or something.
If you drop it into the Zoom chat, we'll throw it in the Twitch chat, and then we'll also make sure it gets dropped into the show notes and stuff for people to grab later.
Yeah, but that's a thread for it. It's currently sort of midway. I believe you are still able to sign up though, and it's just a really good place not only to sort of play in a kind of tournament setting, so you kind of get used to that, but you also make a lot of friends. Like, I still talk to people from the very first Coach People League I was in back in 2008, and I'm still bad enough. Well, not bad enough. I'm still not good enough to be a proper coach, because I've kind of had like breaks in between, and like playing has never been my forte. So I have like a lot of pointless knowledge, which kind of helps me a little bit. But obviously, when it comes to playing, there's a lot of like really, really nice people in the league. So it's well worth checking out.
A league for coaching? Steal that and bring that to StarCraft 2. That's like amazing.
Yeah. I've always wanted to do something where like you get two coaches and they get a team and they get to coach them for like 3 weeks or a month or something.
We had something like that.
We said something. Yeah. Someone did do something similar, but yeah, I don't know what.
I think it was not CPL. It was like this team show, and there was like Polt and Violet, or was that?
Oh yeah, that was a thing too. Yeah.
When they were like coaches, and they like coach, and you play for that team, and like CSL maybe. Anyways, Jaeyun had bounced out for a second.
We duplicated him.
Oh, is he back?
I think.
Oh, there's two of them now.
Yeah. One of them's frozen. One of them's real.
Can we remove that?
Which one is the real? It adds a level to which one is the real David Kim. Neither of them, but kind of both.
All right. Well, I guess Tara will figure it out.
We'll rearrange that. So I'm kind of wondering, as maybe an add-on to that question of like, how do you get involved? I'm wondering, who does get involved? Who do you tend to see as new people in? Is it what I think a lot of people would assume, which is StarCraft 2 players retrying remastered and getting back into it? Or is it brand new players? Like, are you getting new 16-year-olds playing StarCraft remastered? Is it people from other games? What is it?
It's a mix. Like, sometimes, of course, you do have people from StarCraft 2 coming back to play it for a little bit. I'm sure a lot of the Broodwar people, including me, like, I played StarCraft 2 for like 3 years or something as well. But there are sort of new, like, I'll say kids, but they're like teenagers, sort of late teens, 14, 15, 16, whatever, sort of playing Broodwar after school and stuff like that. There's been a lot of them sort of joining there's a big Discord called the Foreign Broodwar Discord that sort of everyone hangs out in, and we sometimes see newer players sort of coming in there. But I mean, it's really hard to say. There's definitely sort of a mix of ages. I mean, I've seen like a couple of people who played Warcraft 3 came to play Brood War for a bit and things like that. And I guess it's the same as StarCraft 2, really. There's probably a lot of StarCraft 2 players that come from other games. And I think that's just the way the gaming community works. So
does remastered skew to older like StarCraft 2 does? Or is it like
I mean, I think it does, but I think it's mainly because younger people, like 1v1 competitive games aren't as popular anymore. Like, it's kind of saddening, but team games have definitely kind of taken the mantle. Like, obviously, you look at League, Dota. I mean, even stuff like PUBG or PUBG and Fortnite. I always say that my way.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, I was speaking to someone at BlizzCon. I can't remember who it was, but they were like, the one thing about Fortnite is really, well, one thing, it's free, which is something that StarCraft 2 is now as well. But the other thing is, you don't ever really lose in Fortnite. Like, the only time you really feel like you lose is if you die first, because other than that, you have like 5-10 minutes where you've at least achieved something, you've had a bit of fun, the games are super fast. Obviously, if you get to the top 10, it's like a massive achievement. So even though you don't win overall, you still kind of feel like you've won. Whereas like 1v1 games are punishing. I mean, even look at something like Quake Live or Quake 3, and it's like in a duel game, whenever you lose, it's because you've made a mistake or you've made more mistakes than your opponent or you got outplayed, and it doesn't feel as good. So I think that's why it tends to skew to more older people who maybe had more experience with the genre back in the day. Other than that, it's pretty good. So
I also want to make sure, Jaeyun, are you here still? I don't know if you connected. Let me make sure you're still here. Can you hear us? I think your mic is muted.
I can see him move sometimes.
I can see him move, but I don't think you can hear us.
Yes, one's frozen, one's moving. We're not sure which one is the real. We're gonna have to shoot one of them, but I don't know which one's the real one.
He's like, I am the real one.
No, he's shaking his head. So I don't know. Whatever. Well, we'll try and get that figured out. But
while he's working on that, I'm gonna bring up. There's something I wanted to. There's this idea of, the foreigner scene in general. But I did notice, like, you mentioned that there's pockets. Like, you have Peru, you have Korea, you have, like, Poland. But I also noticed, like, there's this SCR, like, 20th anniversary tournament coming up in Russia. And they have, like, 117 players signed up for it. So it's for a LAN. This is like a LAN. So I have to ask myself, right? Is there just something going on in the CIS region that is just they're better at like StarCraft and that scene is just completely different, or what's going on? Like, do we have like that in NA? Is that a thing?
Someone's trying to do like an Oregon LAN coming up soon. One of the people that might have been a guest today, Doc Holiday TV, I think is going to be hosting and casting that. But I think the big reason why like Russ Bryan is the guy who's obviously doing the 20th anniversary LAN. He's been planning it for ages. And I think one of the reasons why it kind of helps is Europe is, like, you can get anywhere in Europe relatively cheaply, especially getting to Russia isn't that expensive. Poland, very, very close. So I know a lot of the Polish players are going. There's some Korean players going as well. And I think it's, rather than them being better, I think it's just the cards all fell into place. And Russ Bryan is like really, really amazing. Like, he's been hosting tournaments for quite a while. I believe this is like one of the first LANs he's done. But he's been planning this for a good couple of months at least. He's made trophies himself as well.
Holy crap!
I think it's just in a good place really for him. So it's worked out pretty well. Unfortunately, I can't go. I would have loved to go, but I've got work commitments. So
is that just him? Like being a good promoter then? Like, is him just like being a solid promoter is like kind of like the attribution to his success as opposed to something specific to that region? Like, from your perspective?
From my perspective, I don't think it's necessarily that he's promoted well. I mean, he has done. I think it's more, there's that phrase that I can't remember where it comes from, but it's like, if you build it, they will come. And a lot of people want a LAN Broodwar tournament. And if they're close by, I mean, I believe it's in Moscow, so it's quite central, easy to get to as well. And I think it's just a lot of people want to experience something like this, so that's why they're going.
Wow. Like, and the prize pool is fairly decent too. Like a fairly decent prize pool. Like, it's not, I've always had this theory that people aren't putting any prize pools currently in like the NA scene because they're afraid to invest in a game that's so old. So that's always been my theory. But I always wondered that if you did it, someone went and took that like ledge and say, okay, I'm gonna put up 5K and do a really serious remastered tournament, that people would be interested. And this is like, I don't know if this is 5K, but I think this was like 3-ish K. I think first prize is 1.2.
It's 6,200, 410,000 rubles. So
I don't know that ruble. I don't know what that is.
It's a good currency.
Yeah, rubles. Yeah. I don't know how that.
Yeah, and I always wonder when you get. Okay, so when it's something like that too, I got to figure that it is kind of the experience. Like the prize pool can attract the best people, but when you've got like 160 people or something playing, 150 of those people know they're not going to win. So it's like, but they're still going out. Like,
well, we don't know. Okay, hold on. We don't know this Russian scene. Maybe they're all kind of like,
they're not.
Well,
we don't know the Russian scene, but they do.
Yeah,
yeah.
One of the best foreign players is Russian. He actually lives in Siberia, so I believe he's going. But yeah, like Poland's obviously quite close as well. I know a lot of the Polish players are going, and they're really, really good. So it should be like an awesome tournament. I believe there's going to be like streams and everything as well. So, and also if people want to restream it, they're allowed to restream it without any notice as well. He's given people the permissions to do that. I believe he's going to be casting himself in Russian. So it should be a really cool event. Just if you want to know what it is, it's going to be on the 11th of November. 11 a.m. That's Russian time, I believe. So I can't actually convert that into other times. So
I've learned something before you do it. I learned on the show, never try to do time zones live on air. Never do it. It's bad. It never does. So don't do time zones on air. It's one of those things where
it's 8 hours.
8 hours. All right.
8 hours from Toronto. If you are any EST, it's 8 hours.
Yeah, I don't know. I always get fearful, but yeah, I thought it was a weird anomaly when I was doing my research. I was like, 170, like 160 people participating in an open LAN. Like I can't tell you last time. What was WCS in terms of open LAN? Do you remember the numbers for people to get into the StarCraft 2 open LAN? Was it in the hundreds?
Well, I mean, they always capped it. DreamHack has had some things that were bigger, but like
64 is that our cap?
60, it's 80 because it's 64 open and then the 16 that qualified, so it's 80. There have been ones that were 96, and I think there have been DreamHacks that did have 100 plus, but like that had 4 group stages.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh no, it's like, it sounds very healthy to have 160 people still sign up for an open LAN. I think that's a really healthy thing to do. When I was back when we were at BlizzCon and we were at the summit and stuff and talking, I was like, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to, if with Warcraft 3 being Reforged being announced, I'd love to do a like classic tournament that had Warcraft 3 and StarCraft Remastered, and just do an open tournament and see like what happens. But yeah, I think that would be super fun. So thinking about like the foreign scene, and again, what's the viewership like? Like, what do we look at? Like, if something like Russian, like what could that Russian tournament kind of expect as a healthy viewership for that to look at, right? Non-KSL, non-ASL, like what is that looks like?
This, I would say that is probably going to be one of the hardest possible questions. Basically, because it has Koreans going as well, people can restream.
Ooh.
Like, it's going to be quite difficult to understand, like, just how many people. But I imagine most most of the foreign scene, if they watch Broodwar tournaments, will be watching it. So, and then obviously if it's on Twitch or Freaker TV, I believe there's still at least one of the Koreans going. A few of them actually had to pull out. There was some weird drama with like a translator and everything. I don't know the full story, so I'm not going to go into it. But basically, one of the popular sort of Korean streamers are going. Obviously, one of the highest viewed clips of last year, I believe it was when Lava played with his foot in the Zotac Cup. So you never know what's going to happen. It's probably going to have like the highest viewership, I would say, of any foreign tournament. But when you're looking at something like BSL, which is now it's now sponsored by Blizzard as well. They're starting up tomorrow. So
wait, what's sponsored by Blizzard?
So there's another tournament that's run by Zero PL, the guy I mentioned before. He's been running it for. He's done 4 of them so far. This is the start of his 5th. It has like a ladder stage and everything. The first 3 were all offline in Poland because he's obviously Polish. He made it for the Polish scene. But now sort of everyone kind of watches it. He usually gets like 300, 400 viewers. He casts on Saturday and Sunday. With me, I get up to about 130, and that's casting sort of evening time in the UK, which isn't that great. Koreans don't really watch it because it's the middle of the night, and people in the US are usually at work. So I would say probably, like, if I was just looking at like the foreign scene, there's probably going to be about 500, 600 people watching at least. That's just my guesstimate.
Qikz, do you know who's hosting it?
Russ Bryan.
I mean, like that's his Twitch channel or whatever.
Oh, I actually don't know. I think it is. Yeah. It's all in the thread though. What I'll do is I'll put that in the chat as well.
Yeah, just throw it in the chat. We'll link it up because I actually would probably like to watch this. Like I'm like, what's this? Like, is there an English stream? Like, is he obviously going to be casting it in like, you know, his native language? But is there an English stream?
Yeah, there should be.
Yeah, there should be.
I don't know too many details, but isn't Rapid going to that, Qikz?
Yeah, I think I saw Rapid on the Team Liquid thread or the Team Liquipedia.
Yeah.
So I hope he would be doing the English stream because I'd love to get me some Rapid and see that part.
Yeah, I think there's like viewership for like foreign scene stuff. I mean, it really depends on who's actually hosting it, right? I mean, like if it's like, you know, my channel or Zero's channel or Qikz channel, you know, it might range for something like on the smaller side because we're not like, you know, huge sponsored people. It might go from like 100 to maybe even like 300 or something like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, there have been some like other foreigner stuff like the Zotac Cup last year. That was a huge event. And now that's obviously going to get like 10 to 20,000 viewers. I don't know if it's like 20,000, but it's more like 10,000. Something like the Holiday Bash that's, you know, Day 9, Tastos is in control. I think that got up to like 10 to 20,000 as well. So, I mean, obviously those are like, you know, broadcasted on the Twitch or like Day 9's channel and, you know, who have like 1 million viewers, you know.
Yeah, I'm just trying to gauge like where does your majors, like what are your majors like in comparison to like a StarCraft 2 major? Because like a StarCraft 2 major is roughly around 20K-ish. Like that's where they kind of sit 10 to 20K-ish. So like your majors kind of sit around the same, I'm guessing. But your majors are more like the specials, like the holiday special, the Day 9 and what have you.
Yeah, but I mean, like those things are like super real. Like that's one of the problems about the foreign scene is that like there isn't really that major outside of Korea at least. There is no major. So it's like that Day 9 stuff and now they're trying to push, you know, to get more of those to happen. But obviously they need some support from whether it be from Twitch or from Blizzard or something like that. But in the foreigner scene, I wouldn't really say, to be honest, that there is like a major. I think there's like a major, but it is like still like it might be major in terms of like the competitive value, like the top players are playing in it.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual production value and stuff, I mean, it's still going to be pretty minor, like in the hundreds of viewers. And this Russ Brain thing, I don't know. I guess it depends on how well they advertise and all that stuff. And I really don't know kind of who's behind that, who's doing all that. But I do imagine it should get a lot of viewers because, you know, they got Koreans, they got people all over the world. And usually offline events are going to get way more viewers than just online tournament.
Right. So what's actually like your major non-Korean tournaments? You guys don't have, you're not part of the DreamHack circuit. You're not Like, is there a North American like major offline event at all?
No, yeah.
Okay.
So I would say the major is that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the problem. I mean,
Okay.
so I think the major is like the BSL, like that Bombastic Star League that Qikz talked about.
Okay.
Run by that Polish guy, and now it's growing though. Like, you know, he's taken it from like something really small. Now he's got like a mini sponsorship from Blizzard, and he's captured sponsorships for the next 2 seasons as well. So it's like it's on its way up. So I mean, like, we're hoping something like that could be a major. You know what I mean? Like right now in the scene, it's not established yet. Like people are still coming back. So we're kind of on this slow, like uphill trend towards maybe having that in the future. But I would say right now, like there's there's not much at all.
So you're right now you're growing your majors. You're like you're home growing your majors from scratch or from like a kit.
Yes.
Right. So okay, I got it. That makes sense. All right. That's kind of healthy too. Like I liken this very much like the Smash Brothers community, where their majors, the Melee community, where their majors kind of grow out from these small things and they eventually become large things, and that everyone is established. Right?
Yeah.
So that's my parallel in my mind that I'm trying to draw it. Like, because StarCraft 2 has it where large companies like DreamHack's like, all right, we're gonna bring a tournament with $50,000 and here you go. While your majors may become that they start off like really small for $100 and then suddenly they're like $3,000 one year and then maybe $5,000 and then
Yeah, one of the big things with the Broodwar scene is there's actually quite an active use of, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called Matcherino. It's like a crowdfunding prize pool platform.
For sure.
And that gets used quite a lot. There's some really, really generous people in the scene as well. Like ESChamp, who runs Savatyu, which is kind of like a fortnightly tournament where he puts in quite a bit of his own money. But I mean, the prize pool of that's been growing. It started off at just his like $100 he put in every time. Now he gets like prize pools of like $300, $400. Like my team league, even though the prize pool split amongst every single team at the end of it all, based on percentages and things like that, the prize pool is now like $1,500 as well. So it's kind of big. Like it's like it is definitely weird because I mean the part back to the Melee scene is really, really. Like loads of people say that about Broodwar, and a lot of the Melee people really respect Broodwar as well. They're both similar because they're both super mechanical, super like competitive 1v1 games. And although one's a fighting game, one's an RTS, there's a lot of sort of cross-pollination there. And I think with people like S2J getting more involved in Broodwar, I hope that we can kind of work together and sort of make it bigger on the whole. The other one, obviously, with Warcraft Reforged coming out as well. I've been talking to, or at least I've been trying to talk to some of the Warcraft 3 guys, like the top guys, to try and see if we can get some work going on there as well, to sort of kind of bring the audiences together. And it's just all, a lot of it is down to like the tournament organizers themselves. Obviously, Zero's put in a ton of effort with the BSL. I know he sent like a massive document to Blizzard to get sort of the mini sponsorship that he got, but it's really, really impactful because not only are they tweeting about his event now, they gave him a prize pool for the next two or three, I think it is, seasons. He changed the format a lot as well because the last one was really long. So there's a lot of like really hardworking people in the Broodwar scene, and it's kind of hard to shout out to all of them. But without them, like our game wouldn't be still here outside of Korea. Like Russ Bryan, I believe it was Russ Bryan, was hosting a weekly tournament for years when no one else was doing anything. That was the Defiler Cup. I believe that was him, but I'm going to check because. No, that was that was Noob Cybot. Yeah, basically throughout, like I mean, there was overall the last one was in August last year, but there was 83 of them, and that was like weekly as well. So like the first one goes back to 2011, even before that, I think. And then there was kind of like a break in between. But sort of in the first years of StarCraft 2, the Broodwar scene really kind of died down a lot because kind of it was weird how everyone kind of shifted over and then people were starting to shift back slowly and slowly. But I mean, he was running the Defiler tours the whole time. And there were only like $75 prize pools. But because it was like the only thing that was really going on, like he got tons of really good players in them every single time. And I mean, the only reason why I believe he kind of stopped doing them was because more people came back, started hosting tournaments again. So Huge shout outs to him because he did a lot for the scene. And I think a lot of, especially StarCraft 2 people wouldn't know about it because it's not really well documented anywhere. So.
Is there, when you are either casting or playing yourself, is like, particularly for larger events or one-off events, you're going to have a lot of new viewers that aren't familiar with the game, that aren't familiar with, or may be coming in from SC2, and so they kind of understand, but they don't really know. Do you make any adjustments to like really accommodate for how many of your viewers are probably like first-time watchers or very casual watchers that don't really play it or understand the complexity, versus you've got people probably in the same chat that started playing in 1998?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, with my team league, I try to kind of fit to both. With me, it feels like most of my viewers are already watching Broodwar already. So it's kind of like where I'm still trying to learn how to properly promote and everything. It's kind of more like the people I know sort of watch. I know there's a lot of people that watch from the US when I look at my metrics and everything. And I didn't even realize there was that many people watching Broodwar in the US. So it's kind of surprising to me. But I cast with Rapid primarily. I solo cast a lot as well. I try to kind of keep things as simple as possible, while also trying to do some analysis as well to make it a little bit more like easy to learn from.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, I don't actually cognitively think, oh, I have to break something down for a StarCraft 2 viewer. Like, I do get some StarCraft 2 viewers in my stream, but in general, like, when I cast or play, I tend to be super analytical and super detailed about like exactly what I'm doing and why, or what this player is doing and why at this time and stuff. And so I think in general, like, I think Qikz is more of like the professional caster. Like he's got more of like that, like the formality to his voice, like the formalities to the things he's saying. Like, I don't really have that. You know, I think. Well, that's true. But I mean, well, that's kind of like a strength, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think for me, I'm not like, I'm kind of just more like a passionate Broodwar fan that's just as much analysis as I can. So I'm not like as, professional and whatnot. But I think you do bring up a good point, because I think kind of like, I think one of the issues in terms of Broodwar is because it's such a small community. I feel like when people try to grow the community, sometimes I see a disconnect where some people just want to cater to like this small little, like, tiny bubble of Broodwar that's like 1,000 people. I don't know, like, whereas other people kind of have more perspective of, let's expand it to people that are not part of the scene. You know what I mean? So, but sometimes that can get a little bit of a clash. Like, for example, when you hear, Day 9, Tastos is in control, right? Like, when they are casting some of the couple of those events back in the day, right? A lot of times they'll be joking around, they'll be horsing around, they'll just be like,
that's true.
Like, they won't really even be talking about the game for like 5 minutes, right? And then they'll talk about the game in like for 2 minutes, and all of a sudden they'll get sidetracked by a joke. And it's like, for the true Broodwar fan, they might be like, hey, like, we want to hear more Broodwar, like, we want to hear more. And I get it, like, for me too, I kind of get that too. But at the same time, they're trying to cater to like, hey, this is fun to watch and we can have fun while watching at the same time. So there's like different, you know what I mean? There's like kind of different audiences, different styles of casting. It really just depends on the goal.
Doc Holliday makes an interesting point, and you kind of shows up what you were saying, that there are different content creators for different demographics. And so the In Control, the Artosis, and like Tasteless cast for Broodwar is more like, you're here for the jokes, and there's some Broodwar sprinkled on it. And like, if you're watching like a Rapid and Qikz, that's like, all right, this is like your hardcore and you're into it.
Yes.
And StarCraft has it. Who is your, like, other than those three popular names, do you guys have a content creator who is like that? Welcome to Broodwar, and I'm going to break it down for you for the simplest kind of person. Like, do you guys have a content creator in your scene who is that noob friendly content creator? Even on like YouTube, not even just like a Twitch. Like, I know YouTube is a really big place for those kind of things. Like, because for StarCraft 2, we have like Falcon Paladin and even Winter to some degree, who does like, breakdowns of like, this is how you do this build and stuff like that.
Right.
So do you guys have that kind of person in your community that everyone can be like, yeah, that's the person you need to watch to? Like,
At the moment, I wouldn't say we like. Obviously, we've got the Day 9 dailies still; they're still relevant, even his older ones and new ones. But like outside of that, there are a lot of people that are starting to work towards doing that. Like I know Sham2 wants to do sort of map introduction videos and things like that. So there's definitely a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes at the moment that still hasn't come out. But I guess at the moment, the main thing. Kind of catering to that market is looking at the Coach People League casts. Like, there's a lot of people who do cast it, Doc Holliday being one of them, Sham2 being one of them as well. And when they're casting the Coach People League, they're very informative. They like try and explain everything, but without too much detail. Just kind of like, this is what's going on. This is why. It's that kind of thing. Obviously, I'll say that when me and Rapid cast or when I solo cast, I try and do that as well, but it's kind of more at the back of my mind. But definitely the CPL, the Coach People League, is where that is at the moment, I'd say. Falcon Paladin also does Broodwar stuff as well.
Does he do, does he do rap? Okay, so then Falcon Paladin would be like, because to me, I always think of YouTube as that like place for the newbie to start. Like if I'm a newbie in StarCraft 2, I'm going to YouTube and I'm typing StarCraft 2 and I'm watching Day 9 dailies. I'm watching like, maybe not like
until they're gone.
Until they're gone, right? Husky stuff until they're removed from the internet. And,
Pig old Apollo videos.
But like, you know, on Reddit, when someone's like, oh, I'm, you know, someone makes it every other week, someone makes a post like, I'm new to StarCraft, or is StarCraft worth getting into? And they're like, where do I start? They post, someone immediately says, you need to watch these Pig theory, like series. So like StarCraft 2, people know like Pig is the guy you go to and Nero and Pig are the people you go to get like that intro, and Winter as well to like get that intro. So I was curious if like you guys had that kind of stalwart guy or girl or person who creates those kind of videos to help people get in.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they are like not well established, you know, to answer your question.
So it's still coming.
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, I actually kind of dabble or like thought about doing something like that with somebody, but I just decided to invest my time in a different direction.
Right.
So like, for example, like, you know, I think my stream can be kind of educational. One guy that pops to mind that he's kind of on that, like he's been kind of putting out content, and I don't know if you guys know him, but he's an American guy, Nyokin.
Nyokin, yeah. He used to be in
Yeah, so he's a top, you know, top foreigner Terran. He's like kind of like sort of like me, where like we're both kind of competitive, but he's starting to dabbling a lot more into casting. And then he's also put out a few kind of educational videos on YouTube. And this is like very recently. I'm talking like in the last 2 months. But he's kind of the guy that like is also trying to put that content together because he's a very brainy analytical. So when I cast with him, both our casts are like super duper analytical, a lot of words, but he's also a great personality, and it's just a good person to watch the stream as well. And he also is starting to put like some content on YouTube too. But yeah, I would say it's tough because I think when I was asked to do some of those videos, at least for Zerg players and stuff, like I think for me, unless I had like a video editor like doing stuff for me for free or something, you know, and then we put out a video and then like, you know, it'll get like 400 viewers. Like to me, sometimes the time input wasn't like worth it unless I had like a team, you know what I mean? Like, or somebody else, if somebody else like did the videos for me, then I'd do it. But then if I had to like edit, upload, do all that stuff, like it will be a lot of time on my hands, where I kind of just invested my time in other things like competitive play and also streaming, and then just organizing tournaments.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a lot of work. Like it's a crap ton of work.
And I mean, the just quickly, like one of the major problems Broodwar has at the moment is just it's really hard to promote things, because with StarCraft 2, you have obviously the Reddit that gets tons of people visiting it every single day, and like Broodwar people don't really use Twitter too much. Now, I actually started a thread on Team Liquid about this, because I'm trying to get people to use Twitter more, because it's not like if you want to sort of expand your viewers outside of the scene, you kind of need something like Reddit or Twitter, because people aren't going to realistically find Team Liquid anymore. Like Team Liquid community is still a relatively big forum, but people don't really use it for like forums are kind of, as much as I find this sad, forums are kind of a dying media because social media has taken over. Like, and I think we all need to kind of work better at using it to sort of promote things.
I noticed when I was looking up a lot of the Broodwar players currently active, I noticed like 99% of them or 96% of them do not have a Twitter account, which was like, that was kind of like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, when I was at Holiday Bash, like Artosis was like, "What? You don't have a Twitter? Like that's the language of esports." I'm like, "Oh, I should have made one before I went, and then get a lot of followers, and then do it after." So I still,
just follow Liquid Red. It's easy.
He changed.
Did he change it?
Yeah, it's different. I forget what it's. I forget what it is.
No,
Ret something.
Someone probably stole it. Follow that Liquid Red.
So on the flip side there's definitely a lot of things that have brought people in, or at least got them temporarily interested in Broodwar again, or remastered when that came out. What things do you hear from people that get them to come and then are ultimately the thing that causes them to leave or give up with it? It's got to have like a high barrier to entry. What do you hear from people that's like, that was too discouraging, or that was whatever? Why do people leave the scene?
From me, it's a bit weird because the people who leave, you kind of don't hear anything from. Usually the people that get involved, they get involved in like the Discords, they get involved in watching things, and they kind of just hang around. Whereas the people that leave kind of will be there and then they never say anything, then leave again. I think a lot of it comes down to like when, especially early in StarCraft Remastered, there was a few problems that Blizzard are now fixed where it kind of felt quite lonely. Like I remember when Wings of Liberty came out as well. It felt like you were just alone and there was no one anywhere because chat channels weren't in the beginning of Wings either. And it's kind of like that kind of thing. But it's definitely sort of improved a lot in that respect. Blizzard put a lot of work to get the chat channels working again. But I think the main thing that would cause people to leave is maybe not being able to find other people. Because you can kind of get into Remastered by, obviously it's in the launcher now, so you can be like, oh, I'm gonna buy that or play it, because you can play a free version of it as well, which doesn't have the HD graphics. But until you kind of get involved in the community, it's a little bit harder to stick around. Because I mean, I guess it's the same with any game. Like I've found with WoW, like I've been sub for WoW since before I played Broodwar, so 2007. And my guild kind of died in Cataclysm, and since then I've never really felt the same because I've never found another community. And it's kind of like, I think as long as people get involved in the community of Broodwar, they usually stick around. But it's just getting them to find the community in the first place is one of our big challenges.
Yeah, just to echo, I mean, I think it's all about community, because I mean, obviously StarCraft Broodwar is just a very hard and frustrating game, and it's also I mean, like, I don't think it's just that it's so hard people don't want to play it, but it's also like when you achieve something or you win, you want there to be some sense of reward, and you get that from a community, right? Like, oh, good job, or like there needs to be a sense of like, oh well, I actually executed this build order, or else it just gets really lonely really fast, right?
Does your community suffer from ladder anxiety? Is that a thing? Like, is that like, I don't know,
I don't think so. To be honest with you, what I think it is, I mean, for my, like, just my narrow view, I just think there's not enough streamers. Like, I'm just going to put that out there. There's not enough personalities to actually follow. I mean, like, I guess you could join a community, but like, for example, I mean, this kind of goes hand in hand with community too. I mean, this is just my take, where sometimes I log on Twitch, and the highest viewer count on StarCraft is Medjugorje Broodwar, which is like a bot that runs old StarCraft bots. With like,
I watch that. I'm following that.
Which is cool. Like, it's great. It's great, right? But at the same time, like, gee, like, I wish, when I'm not streaming, obviously I have a full-time job, other things going on. I'd like to watch other people that, other streamers that I like, whether they're good or not, you know what I mean? Like, whether they're just funny or, like, there has to be people to follow, right? Because if those big names, if like there's no one to like really follow and learn from and like kind of look forward to, then it's hard to even have a community at all. Like there is there is like the Foreign Broodwar Discord and stuff, but I mean, like, I just feel that there's just not enough personalities. Like there's some good players, like competitive players, but to be honest, like, for example, there's a guy like the Proving guy, Dandy, right? he gets a lot of viewers because he's one of the top players, but it's like we don't really, you know, he doesn't have his camera on, you know, he doesn't have like a face or like I don't know if he has voice.
Oh my god, really?
Like, yeah, so that's why it's like
like Koreans all over again. Oh god.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I don't know. You watch, it's like yeah, I like to watch him for good StarCraft, but like ultimately, what Twitch is about is like building personalities, like building a following, and it's like
building communities and
exactly. So it's like I don't think there's enough yeah, like personalities out there, people to watch. Like you said, even content creators. When you ask me that question on who's the go-to guy, I'm like, no one. That's why, right? That's why nobody's staying, right? So I think people come and people play it, but then like once they kind of see, oh, it feels kind of dead. At least if you don't know where to go, then it might feel that way. But I think that Coach People League's good. I think we just need more streamers in general, and I don't know.
So okay, then in that cure, like in that sphere of that, how does do you guys have a subreddit? Is that like a thing? Like, do you guys just use StarCraft as well, or is there like an R remastered?
There's a Broodwar one.
Oh shit.
There's also obviously the main one that a lot of people use as well. Like whenever I try and post something on Reddit, I'll post it on both, because obviously that gets more exposure. The Broodwar one has a lot of traffic, like a lot of footfall, but obviously not as much as the main one. So that's why it's kind of good to use both.
Okay. So you guys have you guys will use our StarCraft and then like our Broodwar at the same time. You'll cross post or whatever.
Yeah. The thing is, though, it comes down to people don't really use it. So when I'm posting stuff to our StarCraft, it's like I'm kind of trying to get more StarCraft 2 people interested, because they're realistically the people that are going to be like using it. And our Broodwar, like very few things actually get like comments and stuff like that. Obviously, like a big event like an ASL or a KSL will get people talking. Like there's an ASL Season 6 one in our Broodwar which has 56 comments. It's from 2 months ago though, so but that sort of sticks around. Obviously, like our StarCraft changes like every day. It's really hard to keep up with stuff on there because it's so active.
Does that mean you guys are like still on Team Liquid? Is that like your
that's pretty much the hub. There is someone who's been trying to, like, obviously nothing's been like officially announced and nothing is really properly happening yet, but someone is looking at trying to get like another kind of portal kind of site going up. Obviously, I don't know how far in that is. I don't know if they're still doing it even, but they were talking about arranging it a while ago. So hopefully that'll come up, and then we'll have like
portal sites. Portal sites are like 2005.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
SC2 JoJo.
Like I remember you said, like social media feels like the space to go. So I don't know. Portal site is a edgy place to go.
It's our way to go. Well, also you only end up attracting people that already know it exists, and I think that's the thing with Team Liquid too. If you're on Team Liquid for Broodwar, you already know all this stuff, or like you know how to find it anyway. Because you're looking to pull in the people that don't play. Now, when Remastered launched, it as primarily a StarCraft 2 player that gave it a try, it felt like it launched not like really poorly, but like a little like poorly. It didn't it wasn't ready, and some of the other stuff wasn't ready. And do you think it would have been like, obviously it launched some of the chat you already mentioned, the ladder wasn't really a ladder yet. It could kind of rate you, but everyone was in like the Frontier League or some crap like that. And it took a year to make. The ASL and KSL, which would have got a lot of attention, came out again a year late. Like, do you feel like it was a missed opportunity to, like, it got everyone's attention and then lost it before things are ready?
That's definitely like a thing in the scene, but speaking to the developers, it feels like, I mean, even judging by like the developers' Twitter, and obviously Grant Davies did a lot of developer updates throughout the whole thing, like they were working so hard on making it right, but I think a lot of people were just incredibly impatient. Now I understand why it was like, it wasn't the best launch, and I mean, it even got brought up when Reforged was announced, like in Grubby's panel with the developers. He was like, have you learned anything from the StarCraft Remastered launch? And it's like, it is disappointing, but like the Blizzard guys, they're all so nice, and they're all putting so much effort into making it as best as they can. KSL, obviously, it did come out just recently, like this year, which you could say is a year late, but it took a lot of time to organize for them. ASL was going the whole time, so that's not a major thing. But I think a big problem is like mainly the ladder. Like I've seen activity. It feels like activity, at least, has gone back up since they fixed the ladder properly. Like, I see a lot more people online during the day and things like that. I'll see like the chat channels have got more people in. So I would say, yeah, the launch was a little bit of a missed opportunity because so many people are kind of excited. Even people like In Control and Artosis were really excited about it. And then like they've mentioned in the Pylon show that like they wanted a big foreign event, like even a Team Liquid event or something to get people really hyped up and stuff. But sadly, that kind of never happened, and it kind of did cause a dip, it felt like, but it does feel like it's back on the up again, which is a good thing.
Now, is there a lot of...
Wait, let's see what Jay... I'm curious.
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no. I mean, just kind of like I think... I don't want to say I can, like, you know, blame the problems at the launch. I mean, I think it did kind of turn away certain people, and those certain people, you know, probably very influential people. So there is some dimension, some parallel universe where could StarCraft Remastered have caught on fire if like in tandem all those people stayed and they all streamed and you know, like, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, I think it's still hard either way. Like I think either way the player base probably would have dropped a little bit. I mean, I think like the fact that you can't really make a career out of StarCraft, like, or even like a decent side income, just being like a professional streamer or like whatever, is going to be a deterrence for the big names in and of itself. Yeah. Like, you know, if you're like, for example, like when Rhett was there, Draco, like when I tuned in the first like 4 or 5 months, I'm like, at any point in the day, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like there's so many people streaming, there's big names, there's personalities, and this is kind of cultivating communities, but slowly they start to walk away. So I feel like as much as we can be kind of like bitter at some of the things that could have been better, I can't really, I don't really blame it, to be honest. Like, yeah, I think there could have been stuff, but at the same time, I feel like over time would have kind of converged back to, you know,
where it is now.
Basically.
Is the community nowadays, like growing up, like a lot of people playing it, it was mostly the use map settings stuff that people really play. Like there was the competitive side, but a lot of people just stuck to those games. Is that still a big part of the community, or are people basically 1v1 or nothing at this point?
It's still a huge part. Like there was actually...
Oh, really?
I don't know if you guys have heard of a thing called Fastest Map. I think they did it in StarCraft 2 for a little bit, where basically you spawn with like a command center. There's like a pile of like 2,000 stacked minerals or something, and you basically barely have to macro because everything, like money comes in so quickly. It's just about building as many units as possible. But that actually had like a $10,000 or $20,000 tournament recently. Like there's an entire community in Fastest Map, and in Korea as well. There's so many people still making UMS maps. There's still a lot of people outside of Korea as well. Like I met someone at BlizzCon who basically his StarCraft days are just playing UMS maps. Like there's so many of them. Like it's really cool though, because it shows that Warcraft 3 is the same. I know StarCraft 2 is the same with the arcade and everything as well. So like it's one of the beauties of RTS. Like, I mean, looking at Warcraft 3 and even Broodwar as well, they basically created different genres. Like Warcraft 3 created the MOBA, and all of it spawns back to UMS maps, and they're still a massive part. Like one of the big problems people actually had with the remastered launch was a lot of the older UMS maps, because they use something called EUD, and I can't actually explain what it is because I don't know. That wasn't actually working. But basically, I think it was to do with like hacking the editor and stuff like that. So they didn't work. But one of the things that Grant Davies said in his developer videos is they've been working really hard on getting those working, and most of them actually work now. So like when I log on to Broodwar, obviously you've got the rank ladder now, so you just hit the button and it finds you a game. But if you look at the custom games, there's a lot of like, even at European nighttime where Korea's like very early morning, America's at work, there's a lot of games just on UMS maps. So personally, I think it's still quite big.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Like Hicks mentioned. I think the difference, I will say, like from now versus 10 years ago, and I don't think this is a function of StarCraft, but just a function of technology where like back in the day, when I got home from school, I'd log on to BattleNet. Like that was my message. That was my social network media. All my friends who played StarCraft, we all logged on BattleNet. You got all these people who like they don't actually play StarCraft. They just like know a lot of people. Like there's a lot of those people where there's because it's a social platform, right? But right now, let's say like if I don't want to be on, if I want to reach that my friends, I can just be on Discord, right? I don't need to actually log on to StarCraft. And then when I'm chilling in a channel, it's like, hey, let's play some Team Micro Arena, right? And then we'll all play it. So I think the UMS community was so much more like tight knit because of that. Whereas like now there's kind of like this barrier, like you're on Discord, but you're not on StarCraft. But then you have to like actually get the person to get on StarCraft. That actually tends to be a bit of a deterrent. And I think
it's true. That's very correct. Like you just triggered something. I was like, you know what? StarCraft, Warcraft 3, all that. BattleNet itself was a social network thing that just so happened to have video games attached to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
like I just thought about it because that's what I just did as a kid. I just left BattleNet and I'd go to school and I'd come back and BattleNet was still logged in, and I just start chatting, right? And then someone's like, "Let's play this." I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'm here already," right? Oh my god, yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things like that. I think the other community that's pretty big and like self-sufficient, like Qikz said, is the fastest community. Like they have their own leagues. Like, like I play with them sometimes. It's like they those guys are there to stay, and they're actually like trying to grow it too. And so I think like even if Blizzard can find some sense of support for that, like some sort of like even like a 3-on-3 matchmaking for fastest or something. I don't know, like an unranked kind of thing. Like I think that would help out a lot. And I find it kind of fun because you can actually play UMS games. You can actually change the speed. So sometimes I'll play fastest on like twice the speed. And it's like fun. I like playing that with my friends. There's a lot of people who do that too.
Maybe fastest is like remastered co-op mode. Like when I think about what co-op mode is to StarCraft 2, like fastest might be to Broodwar. Like co-op mode right now is a big like content sink in terms for StarCraft 2, where a good portion of people play. If I remember from most things, this co-op mode has like the highest amount of StarCraft 2 current usage is co-op mode. Next to all multiplayer is 1, and then next is co-op mode. I should be more specific. And then so I wonder how many people are all in fastest. Wouldn't surprise me if that was like the next most used thing in remastered. So I know, Jaeyun, you got to go very soon. So I wanted to get this question because this is something that's really curious to me. Is we talked a lot about community, but your game is 20 years old. How does your meta change? Like, does your meta shift in even drastic ways? I'd love to know how does your meta change, and does that affect your tournament rankings? Like, is KSL and ESL essentially the same people who, 5 years ago winning the other tournaments? Like, does your meta overall in the game change, and then does your meta in terms of your player base change?
I mean, it's crazy how the meta changes in a game like Broodwar, and I think that's why it's so beautiful, because I would say it changes so much faster, like since remastered, because of the we don't have team houses anymore. Right, all the pro players, they just stream. Information is shared, right? So they don't have like team-specific houses with like strategies they're developing here and then like over here. Like everybody knows everything basically. So then that kind of increases the amount of knowledge and builds and all this stuff. So the meta has been changing like 3-4 times like in the past year. Like I'm trying to like catch up, and when I see Koreans do things, sometimes I'm just like, man, the meta like evolves so much where like it almost becomes kind of poker-esque, where it's like you have these people who are so good at controlling things. They're doing like razor thin builds. Like the Terran, it's called the 1-1-1 builds. Like Terrans basically go for like they text straight up to a vessel and then they expand at the same time. You're like, what the hell? Like you have a vessel at like 6 minutes.
Like a science vessel?
Yeah, so you should be dead, right? But it's like,
why didn't you just get rushed and die?
But that's what they're so good. Like one vulture can kill a million zerglings, right? Like they know all the timings to make it work, and that's kind of like the craze right now. So it's like then there's so many different things I could talk about that I don't want to like bore this audience with, but like the meta changes, like I feel like it's been changing like almost every 3 months. Now it's a matter of whether or not the rest of the foreigner community can keep up with the meta, because like actually executing it is another task.
Right.
And then sometimes you master it, and then all of a sudden like pros do something on ASL. And I kid you not, when somebody, I like, especially Protoss, I don't know what it is about Protoss, but like when you see a Protoss player do something in like PVZ or PVT on ASL, the next day on ladder, like 80% of Protoss are doing that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it is that blatant. I kid you not. Like when they do a new strategy, like it'll show up on ladder, and that's how influential those pro players are. And it just changes, and the player changes, and it's like it's hard to keep up with, to be honest. It's hard to coach too. It's like when I coach new players, I try to teach standard, but now I'm like, what is standard now? You know?
Yeah.
But that's so amazing that your meta changes of a game that hasn't been touched in like
it's crazy. Yeah.
In like, you know, X amount of years, 10 plus years, where the actual updates of the games haven't really changed.
Chess changes.
Does it? Like,
yeah, chess, like over, I mean, it's like 1,000 years old, and it changes.
Like,
yeah,
I guess that's true. You know, I never thought about
that much, but it does a lot, especially with computers now. I guess it changed a lot.
Right. Yeah.
So your meta is very like player driven. Like for StarCraft 2, our meta shifts drastically when there's a balance patch. Like when a balance patch drops, our meta change. Like we obviously still have like the level of meta changes when someone discovers something or something happens, but I think the meta drastically shifts when Blizzard, and it's with any game that has patches. Blizzard touches the game, and suddenly things are up and things are down, and then you're like, all right, well, this does work and this doesn't work anymore.
Now, another thing that I've heard Artosis talk about, and sometimes when Artosis talks about like Broodwar, it's like listening to Grandpa Simpson tell a story or something, but like he just is whatever. But one thing that I've heard him say a number of times is just what it was like for them coming up in a pre-Twitch world, in a pre-Justin TV or Africa world, that you would sometimes you would get a replay from something, but you could never see something develop, and you often didn't even have an idea of how they were executing something. How has the game, like you've played it kind of before and after, how has the game changed now that there are videos, tutorials that you could actually watch a pro player stream and practice, as opposed to just getting a rare replay every now and then and seeing something? Like that has to help the meta and stuff advance as well.
I mean, I think it kind of has changed things, because obviously foreign players, even lower level Korean players, can see exactly what. So, I mean, if you think about it, Flash is streaming like 8 hours a day or something, and just watching him iterate over his builds over and over again, like Terran players obviously can pick that up a lot quicker. And rather than shifting the meta, I think it's more, it makes everyone just better at the game, because if you follow those, you can see exactly what he's doing. Obviously, it's a lot easier if you understand Korean, because you'll understand his thought process as well, because he's talking through it.
Oh, he talks about it, huh?
Yeah, he talks about it a lot, obviously, in Korean, though. But just outside of that, it kind of does make the meta shift quicker, because obviously back in like the Pro League days in, say, 2008, 2007, the only time you'd ever see the builds being played publicly was either in an individual league or Pro League. Now, Pro League obviously had the vast majority of the games, but then each individual team would have their own real way of playing, because they all had their own coaches and whatnot. So I think these days, like, there's still a very wide and varied amount of builds you can have. But definitely, like, I think the main thing is it sort of pushed the level of skill up for everybody else.
Jaeyun,
yeah, definitely.
Let us hear from you before you gotta go. And what's your thoughts?
Yeah, sorry guys, I gotta head out. But my last comment, everything Qikz said, I agree with. The level, so I was kind of like sort of competitive back before, like in like 2009 to like 2010-ish. I wasn't like a top foreigner. Again, I was just kind of like a pretty good foreigner, but not like a top foreigner or anything like that. But I would say the level has gotten way better from now to back then. I mean, back then you kind of had to rely straight on mechanics and, just like your intuition, I guess. But then like back then, if you really look at the games, like if I look at the games now, I'm like, like of top foreigners, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? Like your builds look weird. They're so inefficient. They're so suboptimal. Like, because back then, like I said, there was not no flash streaming. Like you had to just kind of figure it out within your own bubbles, right? And it took a while for even replays to come out itself. So it's like you can't even like figure out exactly what everybody's doing. So that's kind of like that's kind of what made StarCraft, you know, kind of fun back then too, in a way, at a foreigner level, because it's like you can kind of get away playing a really weird style. Whereas now it's people have styles, but I mean, if you shift away from the meta or like what you're supposed to be doing, even like by a little bit, like for example, if I see something that you're doing wrong, like in the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game, I can exploit you till kingdom come. Like I will forever, like, because I know you've made this mistake of not being optimal, and now I know how to exploit that, because now I can make 6 more drones at this second, and then that's gonna exponentiate to like 50 more drones in like 2 minutes. You know what I mean? So there's small things like that where, like, if you don't do like quote unquote the standard or something relatively close to one of the standards, you're doing like one of those weird builds from 2010, then you're probably going to get crushed. Yeah, because people have figured that stuff out by now.
Yeah, so you have to be kept up with like the meta constantly. You're just going to get washed away.
Right.
All right, so you guys are about to go. We're going to wrap up the show, but lightning question. You guys can only give one answer. Who is the Broodwar equivalency to Cyril? Who is the possibly closest foreigner who can kill a Korean? Jaeyun, tell us your opinion.
Bonus.
Qikz?
I'm going to cheat and say my friend Cadenzi, because she did win the Ladies ASL League, which was like a month ago. So she is the best female player in Korea right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
And she's Scottish, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a really awesome. She's like our Scarlet. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, let's do a wrap up. Qikz, where can they find you on the internet?
Okay, they can find me on my Twitter, which is QikzSD, which I guess you'll put this in the show notes, yep. But that's my Twitch as well. And also you can follow my tournaments at SDPL TV on YouTube and Twitter as well. I'll be back on Monday with the SDPL. I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2100 CEST casts. And I'll also be casting some other events coming up soon as well and doing some ladder streams. So you can check me out there.
Where can they find you, Jaeyun?
Just usually streaming Twitch TV Jaeyun, or my Twitter to Twitter DJayun, just Jaeyun with a D on it, and have some events going on, but for the most part I'll be streaming kind of in the evenings on Pacific time.
And there you have it. Those are our good guests. Thank you guys very much for being here. I really appreciate having you here on the show.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you for having us.
Like it's really, like, my favorite thing is that for us in StarCraft 2, it was a very rare opportunity to get to see what's going on the other side of the fence. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Let's let our guests go. Tara, why don't we go back to the 2-person scenes and our guests can jump out and we can wrap up the rest of the show. So.
Yeah, for anyone out there that's like, discouraged to get into Broodwar, now that there is like the ladder, like a lot of people that I've talked to have had the opinion of like, no, there's no point in me joining this game. Like everyone's just going to kill me. I'm going to lose my first 100 games or whatever. There is still enough of a community out there of people starting or just that aren't good that you can go, yeah, you're going to get killed a little bit to start, but it's not that bad. It's like within your 5-10 games, you're going to find your level and you're going to have decent matches. They've got an unforgiving ladder rank system now. They literally rate you like S, A, B, C, D, E, F. They're not
didn't Artosa get to C when he I think he got to see when he first
probably
ladder.
Yeah, I don't know what he is now. And I don't know how it like ranks you to begin with. Like I did mine and I was placed in D, but then I like fell out of D because it may just kind of have a bias towards the middle because I like won 1 out of 5 placer games or something.
Well, I think it needs to be. It's a brutal game, so it should be a brutal ranking. Like I would have.
Yeah, it should be like it. I like it. It's nice. It doesn't pull punches, but you will find your level. Like, and I've watched people start StarCraft 2, like a friend coming over from like LOL and stuff, and they did their placements. It literally took him 24 games to get his first win. but then once you do, then you're fine. And in remastered, I found it was easier.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm a masochist or something, but I always love the hardness of StarCraft and StarCraft 2. I always find that the deeper a game is, the more I appreciate it. Like we had this conversation a little bit earlier about, you know, what people are playing together, playing today, like Fortnite, and the easiness of it and the easy wins and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm a forgotten generation, but the idea of like the game being so hard that when you finally win, it's like it tastes delicious. Right?
I know. It's just the difficulty is good. I just always think whenever someone brings up Fortnite, my 6-year-old nephew has won Fortnite games. Like, so I mean, come on, man.
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know what
that
says about the game, man. I don't know.
It's something.
I don't know what it says about the game.
Yeah,
but absolutely. All right, guys, let's take a little bit of a few opportunities to finish up elements of the show. Why don't we take a look at some of the art? I love this segment. This is Arts and StarCraft, guys. This is where we take a view of what's happening around the community, and what all those creative people have put together. Tara, show us some art.
Good stuff. Some crazy junk.
Yeah, well, here's the crazy junk. It's like one of those things. We played two because we played the last week's one, so we had last week's and this week's. But it was. I loved I like from the old last week. I like the little model, the rendering of the StarCraft. That was really freaking cool. And then in this one, those models, like all of it's cool, by the way. But like there are some things where you're like, man, I'd totally have that in my apartment, or this would be super cool in my apartment. But it's always nice to see the talent of the overall community, like doing really cool crap, man. It's really awesome. I love that. So yeah, that's and we were just talking about Warcraft 3.
Yeah. And one thing I brought up is that for anyone out there, Warcraft 3 remastered also means Dota remastered. Like,
could you imagine if Blizzard was like, oh, that's broken?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, if they screwed up that game, that would be something. But it could breathe life into that again too.
Could you imagine? They're just like, well, for some reason, use map settings don't work anymore, so
don't know what to tell you.
We don't have the technology anymore, and no Dota. It was on the stage when they were announced as like Warcraft has spawned other genres, and everyone's
no one said. And I mean, everyone knows that they were talking about MOBAs, but it's also true that like one thing I remember debating early in StarCraft 2's life, if people were like, why don't people play the arcade as much? And like, it's not a big thing. But part of it wasn't just the design of the arcade. It was that the arcade games are now games. So if you want to play a MOBA, you can go play a MOBA. If you want to play a tower defense, you can go play a tower defense.
Oh yeah, I guess
like that's true. That didn't exist anymore. So the things that like, it's always struck me that the things in StarCraft 2 that are good playable arcade games are StarCraft 2 arcade games. They're not games where they've really, really distorted it. It tends to be stuff like the Tugs of War, the crazy maps, the whatever, but you're still playing StarCraft 2 units and abilities. But things like a MOBA, if you made it in StarCraft 2 now, I could just go play a MOBA. I could just go play a tower defense. I could just go play a like whatever other game you're going to design.
I agree with you because that didn't even cross my mind. But at the same time, I wonder how much of like I feel like the arcade was buried in the very beginning eras of StarCraft. Okay. It was really hard to find games in general. But on the flip side of that, I don't know if I think people didn't understand the power of the editor.
It's really strong.
Because what did we just, who's the guys that we just, what's his name? Pirate Arcade, who did, oh my God, what's his game? Arcstar. Like that level of kind of creation, and StarCraft Universe, the StarCraft Universe, kind of games where you can make almost, what's the word? Like, not fan, what is it when a fan takes an iteration of a content and they make like more to it? Fanfic, like fanfic content for StarCraft 2. So, like, I feel like we didn't realize that till really, really late that we could make, because that, like, you're right. I think people were trying to make like tower defenses and that stuff existed. What people should have been doing was like StarCraft 2 fanfic, because Blizzard right now isn't going to make any more content for StarCraft 2 in terms of storyline. Yeah. So if fans were like, oh man, I'm making, this is Zero Tools, running off a Kerrigan hot love life in a arcade campaign, I think people would. Would do it, right?
You can definitely do stuff like that. There's also always the ability to just literally, again, create a new genre. Like people could come up with games that don't exist.
I laugh, but it's probably true. It's like true. It's true. Zealot hockey. That's the new feature.
That's something.
Zealot hockey is the future.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the way to go. Oh, I love you guys. You guys are funny.
Was I the only person out there that when they announced that Zeratul would be a co-op commander just assumed he was? Like, did I not notice that he wasn't? Yeah.
You know what? I actually, when they did, at first, I actually had to take a moment where I was like, I thought about it. I was like, was he not a co-op commander?
Yeah, I was like, I know there's a DT one, but the DT one
is Razagul.
Borzun is the girl one, so they went with her. But yeah, but I just thought that he was. I never play it. Yeah,
it was. What I was a little disappointed. It was kind of underwhelming how they announced Zeratul. That was kind of a disappointing thing to me, where they were like, welcome everyone to BlizzCon 2018. We have amazing content coming up, like Zeratul and new patches, and let's kick it to World of Warcraft. And you're like, what? Okay,
whatever. What? I do like the building skins, all except for the Terran ones. The Protoss ones are awesome. The Zerg ones are awesome. The Simulant or whatever they call it. Yeah. And the Terran ones, if you just showed them to me and didn't tell me they were skins, I would just have thought they were the original models. They look too similar.
What I'd like to see eventually is I would like to see the community create their own models and they make it.
Yeah. They should do like a contest or something. Like you've got an
open market. It should be like,
you've got to really curate that
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like everything has to be like within a certain range. It can't be like Dota. Like
the Dota guys, like they had really strict things for their models, kind of stuff, and people still found their way. Like I feel like if you give people the criteria, you tell them like what it needs to do to pass the test, whatever, people will do it. Like there's enough creativity in the community and enough hardworking people. If you say it has to be these specifications, you can't do this, you can't do that. Here's a primer, release it, and we'll approve and don't approve. People will do it, right? I think so. Like,
although they don't even internally to Blizzard, they're not following those standards. Like they're like, hey, wasn't a roach supposed to have a thing on it to display if it were? No, fuck it. Like it's fine. Like forget the game. We're just gonna do this anyway.
Right. It's probably
aren't the Immortals and Stalkers supposed to be? No, fuck it. They're the same color. They look the fucking same. Leave it. Like so, if they can't do it, they're not going to do it externally.
You're right. That's true. It's very, very true. That's something that's very true.
Yeah.
All right. So let's find out who that person was on the StarCraft channel. Did you guys figure it out? Like
that guy.
Let's find out. Let's find out who it is. Let's see. We still have one more chance to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like
remember him?
Yeah.
In the pre-finish era.
I feel like we should have had like the meme where like the guy's looking at his girlfriend and like he's holding Neve's hand and like Cyril's walking away.
Makes sense.
Remember when Neve was hot, right? Everyone was like, Neve, you're the one. You're the hope.
Still good.
He is still good.
Yeah. But he's not. Yeah, that's not quite there. But nobody's where Cyril is. So, yeah. There was debate. Like throughout the year, there was a debate of is Cyril the best foreigner ever? And it's now.
I don't think so.
You don't think you think?
I think for 2018 he is the best foreigner ever. But I think next year there'll be somebody else.
I want to see how he adapts to. Well, whenever I say the best ever, I don't mean including the future.
Oh,
but like someone will be born under a shining star like tomorrow or something. But did you see the post too? If someone pointed out like Sarah was born like 7 days before.
Yeah, I saw that. That creeped me out. I couldn't like I have a weird thing with my age when I see things like that, and like I can't process this kind of stuff when I look at it. I was like, Sarah was born in 1998. And he's won like X amount of millions of dollars, and you know,
good man. But
I was like 14 or 15 at that time.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I think this has removed all debate that he's the best foreigner ever.
Yeah,
to date, obviously. But I think it's quite possible now that he just is the best player ever. Like, I mean, we never got to see the Maru Cyril showdown that everyone wanted, but it's because Maru lost.
Yeah, I was like, well, Maru lost. It doesn't matter now.
Fuck him. Yeah, so it ain't him anyway. I mean, it can be, but it would be. Yeah, we'll have to see as the meta shifts a lot after this patch. If Cyril is still the best after a large meta shift, then I think we have to say, not only best ever, but potentially best player, and Bonjour or something.
Yeah, if he stays top at 2 years in a row, then I'm like, I get it. Yeah. It's like, to me, when you see Flash stays consistently amazing for like several shifts of Broodwar or the Broodwar life. So like when you say to me, someone said to me like in Broodwar world, Flash was the best player ever. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, because he survived multiple meta shifts. But I feel like in StarCraft 2, like one year, Neve is super hot. You know, next year it's special. And then the next year now it's like Cyril. Because Cyril's been around, but only this year and like maybe a little bit last year was he like really killing, like people were dying everywhere, left, right, and center, right? So but we'll see. Like I'm obviously like maybe he'll just stay the top for the next next year.
He seems so good. I think the big thing that stands out with him is he's so good at everything. There's not like with certain guys you could say like, all right, they do this well, or they do this style, or they do whatever. I don't know what Cyril's style is other than perfect.
I don't have enough knowledge in like StarCraft 2 high level meta to even remotely comment or even assess. Like when I watch it, I just like Cyril is amazing. But like, I would say that about any of the pro players. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was Cyril.
It
was Neve. I mean, that's who the video was.
So absolutely, guys, we're coming close to we're wrapping up the show. But a couple of things I wanted to mention, and a couple of things I wanted to point out that are coming. November is a new month, so we have a interesting surprise for you starting next week. So keep an eye on our Twitter for the announcement. It's a Kings of the North announcement. That's all I can say. It's coming soon, and the announcement should be looking to show. Stuff related to Inside the Scene, though. Inside the Scene, I am looking into the best way for us to turn the audio into a podcast. You people have requested it. People have asked. And there's just a couple of the old episodes we have to kind of retrofit because the way we formatted the show, like, we had like the video in like the middle. So it's like, oh, okay, well, you can't really have in the audio version, we have like Arts and StarCraft play, and you're like, well, I can't see anything. So
let's record descriptive video over it. It be
awesome. A Hydralisk because now
like I would love to do a voiceover of like, this is a pencil drawing of Maru. This is a rendering of a StarCraft base. There's an Ultralisk. Looks like trouble. Like I would love to do that over the video.
That actually may not be like that. Actually, might be kind of funny, especially if you're driving your car and you're like, "What is happening?"
A Hydralisk model. It looks menacing, except for the face, which looks perplexed. Something.
Yeah, that would be fun. And Alessandro, it's not even just like the idea of getting the MP3. It's just that our earlier episodes are formatted a little weird. We were still kind of figuring out the format of guests to.
Some of them were just showing games.
Yeah, like we were just
so that wouldn't work.
So they're if you're listening to an audio, the experience might be weird for you, especially if you're joining us from like our first couple episodes where you're like, oh, we're talking about something and it just shows up and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
So maybe we would get Endosword's voice in your ear where little ASMR and he just gives you descriptions of what's happening. So that might be a thing. Either way, we're looking into it. We might start off with the newest episodes and then promise you the backlogs later, which would probably be the easiest thing to get it just out, is give you the newer episodes, because I've consciously been trying to format it that we can just cut the interview specifically and insert them without any problems. So that might be a thing. So just keep an eye on it, and that should be soon. The last thing, we also announced that ProBots is coming back in December. So if you're working on a bot, be sure to work on it. Registration will pop up eventually as well. So keep an eye on those kind of announcements. But you should be working on your bot right now. Like that's what I really wanted to get across. If you been working on an AI thing, you should probably be working on your bot right this minute. After the show, you should be working on your bot. But yeah, those are the major updates and announcements. ProBots, Kings of North information coming up soon, and audio version of Inside the Scene. So, someone's like, older episodes as a bonus podcast a week.
That makes sense. Yeah,
that might be something worth working on. All right, last thing but not least, the ESChamp Insider Club.
Yeah.
Yes. Patreon. There we go. So yeah, Insider Club is just one of the best ways I find that helps us support. I usually use any of that stuff to help upgrade our show's quality in terms of production. So I'm still working on perks. I'll figure it out. It'll be out soon, but usually that's the best way I use that money to kind of upgrade the shows. That kind of keeps, especially these videos, that goes towards that. And then obviously the awesome way to subscribe, thank you, Alessandra, is another way to support is subscribing here on Twitch. That also helps us, and that goes towards stuff like prize pools and making stuff continue. So yeah, that's the main stuff. Dave, where can people find you?
Usually here at Endersword on Twitter. And on I lost my Reddit account. There was a big I got it back today, but there was a big like breach or something, and they locked like thousands of people's Reddit accounts, and I didn't have a recovery email. So for like a while they were like, oh, like your fault or something, but whatever. But they just gave them all back today, so I got it back. So Endersword on Reddit, and on my Instagram that still has nothing, but I'm gonna put vacation pictures up. Endersword SC.
Wait, do people follow people on Reddit? That's not a thing.
No, not really, but I just mentioned that. So
okay.
I literally just got it back like half an hour before the show.
Okay. I was like,
so it was on my mind. Although apparently you can follow people on Reddit.
What?
Like you can, like using the RES thing, you can like flag people's stuff to like, I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't follow people.
Don't follow me on Reddit. There's you wouldn't want to
so much other stuff.
Get stuff. Yeah, you wouldn't want to get that stuff in your feed. My mind's already trailed off. Post pictures. Why don't you post anything on Instagram?
I don't know.
Post it today after the show.
All right, yeah.
So I can like it.
Okay.
When you're following me, if you want to follow me personally at Drexama on Instagram, that's legit the only social media that I really Twitter. Actually, no, I don't really use Twitter on my personal side as much anymore. But Instagram is probably the place I use most in terms of social media. So at Drexama. For most stuff, the most place I'm going to stuff, especially for the shows, at ESChamp on Twitter. That is definitely the most place that we communicate. But I also do stuff from email. I just don't remember how to. Was it? Oh, does this work? Yeah, that works. So I also, if you want to get like the updates of the shows directly, and if you're like me when you're watching stuff like Twitter goes by too quickly, and I always forget when to check for things. So if you want to get updates for the show, go to that list and pick which one of our shows, whether that's Probots, Inside the Scene, or Kings of the North, any of that stuff you want direct updates. I send out usually weekly what's happening for the week per show. So you can choose what show you want, and I will send you the links to what's happening. And I'm going to start including show notes too. So you can get all that stuff in your email and look at it at your own time.
One thing I wanted to throw in as a plug, it's not ours, but since a lot of people that watch here are from Toronto or the area, there is a group of guys that are doing a LAN tournament.
Was that the Hamilton kids?
Yeah, the Hamilton guys. Yeah. So it's in Hamilton, so not that far out of Toronto. So if you're in the area, check it out.
Not this weekend?
Saturday. Not this weekend, but next weekend. So Saturday, November 17th. They're starting at like noon and basically going from like noon to like 11 at night or something. There's a Discord around it. A guy named Probe, I think, is the one running it. And there's a Discord for like StarCraft 2 Ontario and stuff. Like join that. But they're doing that next weekend. So if you're in the area interested, trying to get the word out there. It's all levels. So they're just they want people to send them like their BattleNet name and league and whatever, and they'll try and figure out a format or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys I've seen some of their stuff, really good. They did a LAN thing not too long, like I want to say last year, but it might have been earlier this year. Really cool stuff. I am a big supporter of the open tournaments. I haven't done one in a long time just because they take a lot of energy and work to do, but I highly agree.
It should be good. There's like 24 people signed up already, and there's still a week out. So
that's really
and they're doing it like I'm just looking at their thing now. They're doing it by division. So there's people as low as like the lowest one on there is like 2,900 MMR. So that's low. So you will be grouped like with who it is or whatever. like who's in your league, basically.
And unfortunately, I'm a salty Torontonian, and so it's one of those things where, like, if it was in like the Toronto regional, which the subway reached, I would go instantly. But Hamilton is a mission if you're not playing in it. So. But absolutely, though, I encourage, and I always, especially anybody doing anything specific for StarCraft 2 in Canada or anywhere, but Canada specifically.
Apparently, there's another one Seeker saying in Mississauga on the same day.
That is weird. That's probably that's unhealthy.
They should coordinate that.
Yeah, I mean that's like,
but
we get like one land a year, and for some reason those the one lands together drop on the same. Okay, anyways, we're not gonna really go too much about the show, but. Either or, check that out. We'll probably post that in the Palin show thingy so that maybe they'll mention it too. So either way, you guys can find out information. All right. Check us out next week. We have an interesting episode where we will be talking about DeepMind, the DeepMind announcement. It's been a long time since we've had actually, I don't think Inside the Scene itself has had any artificial intelligence specific talks, but DeepMind stuff was released at BlizzCon, so last week. So we're gonna get some of the guys from StarCraft AI Net to translate what it all means for the rest of us. So yeah, next week we talk about AI here on Inside the Scene. And so until then, guys, 7:30 EDT or 19:30 if you're European, Eastern Standard Time still anyways, right here on this channel. So until next time, we'll see you on the Inside the Scene.